Hey guys, I'm Tori and welcome back to my channel. I recently gave birth to my son Kai and just wanted to share with you my experience and hopefully give those of you who have been advised an induction due to a medical reason some much needed encouragement. Even though I've been induced, I've had unmedicated, natural births and overall beautiful experience, and I believe birth can be transcendental as we become a portal between the spirit world and this physical realm. When I got pregnant, I viewed birth as an opportunity to deepen my knowledge about my body and mind, as well as learn to trust in the intelligence of this creation, for it truly is incredible. I started planning my water birth when I was about 30 weeks pregnant. The hospital I was going to give birth in had just built a couple of natural delivery rooms with home-like atmosphere. So I talked to my OBGYN at that time and she told me that unfortunately their office doesn't assist births in natural delivery rooms, and if I were to go ahead with that idea I would need to transfer myself to a midwifery office. So that's what I did in the next few weeks, hoping to have a natural water birth while still be in close proximity to medical staff. Later on, however, I discovered that the hospital had a policy that you cannot actually give birth in the water, you can only labor in the water. So even though water birth was not a possibility for me anymore, I was still extremely happy with my transfer to a midwifery office because it was a much more personalized and holistic experience, and their approach was more aligned with the vision I had for the birth of my child. I've had a relatively easy pregnancy. However, when I reached 36 weeks, my belly was measuring a bit small, so my midwives ordered a gross ultrasound, and as it turned out, the baby was measuring 1 week behind, which put him in the 25th percentile. They said it wasn't anything to worry about, and we went on with the regular checkup schedule. 2 weeks went by and my midwives ordered another growth ultrasound. At 39 weeks, my baby was measuring 3 weeks behind, which put him under the 10th percentile. Right after the ultrasound, I met my midwives, and that's when the induction was first brought up to me. They said, "We don't know why he hasn't grown in 3 weeks. It might be that you're small and you're not going to have a big baby, but it also could be that the placenta started to deteriorate and is not providing enough nutrients for the baby, and at this point it's better for him to grow on the outside rather than staying on the inside." At first I completely rejected the possibility of me being induced. First, it's to force your body to do what it's not ready to do yet. It involves drugs, adds additional stress to mom and baby, as well as more pain during labor and an increased risk of a C-section. At this point, I'm high risk and I'm not allowed to give birth in the natural delivery room, regardless of whether I'm agreeing to induction or not. I've always struggled with expectation versus reality in my life, and I promised myself that I wouldn't get frustrated if something goes not as I planned, but it was still quite difficult. So this is something I'm still working on. They scheduled my induction for the end of the week, which gave me an additional 5 days to induce myself naturally. My midwife performed a membrane sweep, I tried castor oil, red raspberry leaf tea, essential oils, acupressure, but unfortunately nothing really worked. I was only 1 centimeter dilated. Me and my husband spent the entire weekend Googling and researching inductions. We read all kinds of horror stories to the point we were very close to canceling. Then I stumbled upon a story of a woman who went into natural labor after using the foley balloon instead of cervidil. Both of these methods do the same job, only one is manual and another one is a drug. In some cases, dilating your cervix with the Foley balloon is enough to trigger contractions and get the labor process going. So we decided to go in, get monitored, and discuss our new birth plan with the midwives. Our plan was to try the Foley balloon and see if I would go in labor. And if I wouldn't dilate, I wanted to keep an option to be able to go home and not proceed with the induction. I didn't want to do pitocin unless I was at least 4 or 5 centimeters dilated. Because most of the horror stories that I read were about women who were given pitocin when they were only 1 or 2 centimeters dilated. Almost all of them had long labors, and most of them ended up getting an epidural. And as I said before, I was going for natural birth. It took us about 2 hours to go over everything and get on the same page. I was so happy and comfortable with the plan, and I finally got to relax a little bit. Not for long though. They inserted the balloon into my cervix at about midnight. Basically how it works is that it sits on top of your cervix and manually creates pressure. Its job was to soften and open the cervix. You need to pull it for about 10 seconds every 30 minutes to an hour, and if you fall asleep, the nurse will do it for you. They recommended me to sleep, but I started having regular contractions almost right away, so it was quite difficult to sleep through them. The balloon came out at 9 a.m. It got me to 4 centimeters and I was thrilled. I thought the contractions would stop, but they continued. My midwife came in at about noon to check on me and recommended to get in the tub and labor in the water for some time. My doula joined us at about 2 p.m. and that's when I got in the tub. Within 10 minutes of me being in the water, I started having very strong contractions. So I literally was in active labor at that point. I started breathing deeper and I found it easier to breathe in and out through the nose. I labored in the water for about an hour, then I slowly transitioned to the floor, then to the toilet, then back to the floor. I got really lucky with the hospital and my birth team. Everyone was so kind and supportive. They allowed me to labor anywhere I felt most comfortable, and I feel like that positive collective energy definitely made a huge difference in how my labor progressed and how quickly it progressed. My birth team was my doula, the nurse, and my midwife. A celebration of female energy. I didn't have my husband present during active labor. He spent with me the whole night and he left at 2 p.m. right before I went in active labor. Birth is definitely something to experience, but I don't believe it's something to watch. Most amazing thing about labor was the break in between the contractions when the surge of endorphins was released. It felt incredible. It was as if your body was rewarding you for experiencing that pain. And you know, the pain is coming, but that moment was so still, so peaceful. At one point during my labor, I got nauseous and vomited. Even though it was a horrific experience, it helped break my waters and got me to 6 centimeters. At about 4:20 p.m., I was squatting on the floor, leaning onto the birthing ball, and that's when I felt an urge to push. But it wasn't like you could decide to push or not to push. Your body was pushing and you just felt it. You was just somewhere in the back, in your mind, observing and witnessing it all. So in that moment, I remembered all those people coming in the night before and advertising their epidural, all other kinds of pain meds. And I was like, no, I don't think I will need it. I'm going to have a natural birth. And of course, I regretted that in that moment. And you might regret it too. But when that moment comes, know that it's almost over. I asked my doula and the nurse to give me at least something. And they were like, it's a little bit too late. You're going to have your baby in less than 30 minutes. They asked me to get on the birthing table and I didn't want to lay down in the traditional position. I think it was a TED talk that I watched and there was a woman who said you need to use gravity. So I turned around and I got into the kneeling position with my arms on top of the bed, and then it was like out of body experience. I don't really remember much. I think I was pushing for about 10 minutes. Some people say that pushing feels better, but it wasn't the case for me. In fact, it felt worse because my body was pushing during the contractions and you can't control how hard you push because you are not actually pushing, your body is pushing for you. I only remember 2 last pushes. The first one, half of the head came out, and then when the contraction ended, it went back. I was like, I can't do it! The head went back! The head went back! And then in a few minutes, the second push, the head comes out and my midwife pulled the baby out. I turned around, they put him on my chest, and it was the most beautiful and wonderful moment of my life.
He's perfect. 4:55. He's perfect. Yes. There. Gonna get this wet blanket. Oh my! Look at him. He's perfect. Yes. Hi, Mama.
He's right here. Say hello. Say hello. It's a serious business to be a baby, huh? It's a serious business to be a baby. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to reach out with any questions. I'm not an expert in childbirth in any way, but if you'd like to talk to someone who've been through this, I'd be happy to help. Please like and share this video if you found it interesting. Subscribe to my channel about conscious living, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye! Say bye! Say bye! Or you have something else to say.